Good morning, church.
Good morning.
Good morning, church.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure standing here before you guys. Before I get started, I do want to acknowledge Bishop Sam, Minister Natalia in their absence, along with Apostle and Deacon Broomfield, who is not here with us today. I want to thank, all of the ministers, deacons that are, in the sanctuary with us. Thank you for all the members that are here today, as well as those who are online. So today's topic that we've, came up with and that it was necessary to discuss was growing pains. And the subtitle of this is Embracing Vulnerability. So I want to talk about something that I believe will touch each of us, something we often feel but rarely find the courage to name out loud, and that is growing pains. Not the physical aches, but or the physical aches that we have like experienced as kids, but the emotional or spiritual pain that comes from the process of becoming who God has called us to be. We can all understand the aftermath of growing, and when we've gone through the process of growing pains, we see that as like a beautiful journey or something that we take joy in, something that we were able to overcome. But do we remember or acknowledge what that journey of growth felt like? For some of us, it was a time of living in discomfort. We were challenged at some point. We felt that we were at our lowest, or some of us even felt like we were at a place of reaching, our breaking point. In those moments, we're presented with a choice. It's either to hide behind the strength, having to be that strong individual, or to embrace vulnerability. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the meaning of vulnerability, which is the quality or feeling of being exposed to a possible emotional attack or harm, having to face the potential of criticism or even rejection. It's not easy for us to take emotional risk or to open up ourselves to other people because there is that possibility of feeling hurt. But in embracing vulnerability, this can lead to personal growth. Embracing vulnerability also means being willing to feel deeply and to share honestly, even when the outcome is uncertain. It's choosing to open up your heart, whether that means telling someone that you're feeling hurt, whether it's admitting that you have something that you're fearful of, or even expressing love to someone else without knowing if that love will be returned. So I'm going to talk about a few examples of vulnerability or different acts that I feel like that we can, have a bigger picture and be able to relate to. So the first one is admitting feelings of fear or doubt. So this is confessing that you're afraid. Some examples that I have for this is like if you're going through a sickness or if there's some sort of diagnosis that you're uncomfortable with telling someone about. It could be a financial situation where you're struggling financially and you don't want someone to know the struggle that you're going through, or even of moments where you are struggling in your faith, being fearful of someone criticizing you because you're not at the same level that they may be in their walk with Christ. The second example would be asking for help. So asking for help is not an easy thing. This is the act of just reaching out to someone and letting them know that you can't do it alone, that you do need that support, you do need that help. Letting people know that you're overwhelmed and you need the prayer, you need the encouragement from other people. Then there is sharing past mistakes. So being able to open up about a personal failure or even testifying about a time you fell short and how God met you in that place. There's letting others see your pain. So this is crying in front of others. I know some people aren't comfortable with allowing people to see them, shed tears. And it's even just saying to them, I'm not okay. Oftentimes we'll say everything is fine. I'll be okay. But just understand that it's okay to let people know when you're not okay. And a last example or act of vulnerability that I have is being honest about your journey. So talking about, your seasons of depression, anxiety, even spiritual dryness. It's understanding or being willing to share those aspects of you because you don't know what individual could be going through that same situation. So just even hearing, or if you're in a place of, hearing someone else say to you, I've gone through that, or I've experienced that, it could be words of encouragement to another person. So I have this first video that I also want to show just to give you another understanding of vulnerability and how it can also come from integrity. And together, vulnerability and integrity can come courage.
You have one superpower within yourself, and that is the gift of vulnerability. Being able to go to somebody in their darkest moment, in their struggle, in their temptation, and say, hey, look, here's a transparent life. I used to be just like you, but look how God brought me out of chaos. God brought me out of struggle. God brought me out of hardship. Oh, if he did it for me, he can do the same thing for you. That's being vulnerable. And vulnerability is an incredible gift. But if you do not have integrity, you will not live from vulnerability. You will live from a surface level, and you'll lead from a surface level perception of who you hope people think you are, not who you actually are. Oh, vulnerability is a gift, but vulnerability is driven from integrity.
So the benefits of embracing invulnerability can positively impact not only our spiritual well-being, but also our mental health. So some examples of how this can benefit us mentally. The first one I have is reducing emotional suppression. So this allows ourselves to feel and express emotions like sadness, fear, or grief. Those are, I would say, the main emotions that we would feel like we would want to hide from other people. We prevent those feelings from, building up, and they tend to cause like anxiety and depression and even emotional numbness. So with vulnerability, it gives those emotions a voice, which helps release that pressure, that weight that you feel internally. It can also break the cycle of shame. Shame thrives in pain, secrecy, silence, and judgment. So, with embracing vulnerability, it can help in a sense of being able to release those burdens, release the heavy loads that come from whether it's trauma, whether it comes from situations that have placed you in a space of fear and anxiety. The next way that I feel as if vulnerability can help impact our mental health is it allows us to build authentic connections or trust. So this causes us to feel seen and heard. It reduces loneliness and increase emotional resilience. And what that means is being able to bounce back from an emotional setback. Connection is also a key to combating mental health challenges. So, in the clinical terms, we call those protective factors, where it's like those coping strategies that you use to prevent or help you from going back to a place where you felt as if you were in distress. So, as a Christian, as a church, we should reflect on whether we are receptive to vulnerability, whether we can bridge that gap between vulnerability, fellowship, and community, allowing our experiences to reveal more of who God is to others. Removing that mask, showing who God is very important. So, embracing vulnerability is tough. It's challenging and often carries a negative connotation. There's a stigma behind vulnerability. It indicates, or some people believe, and even in cultures, see vulnerability as a weakness. All right, because vulnerability puts us in a place of potential harm and risk. So I can share a little example of like when I remember being exposed to vulnerability. There was a time where I would say this started for me elementary school, and then it just followed me into even today, where I was put in a position to where someone was open and vulnerable. I can't remember the specific scenario because it has been like a constant thing in my life. When a person presents their situation to you, it's not easy to hear, it's not easy to receive, and you have to be very cautious on your response to that person. So I would just sit and listen. That's what I knew how to do best. And some of you guys know that I'm very quiet. So I would just sit and just take it in and just be present for that individual. And I would then take it all home, tell my mom, I don't know why they're telling me this. I can't handle this. I don't know what to do. Can't take it, without realizing that that is like a purpose God has called me to be. For those who do know, I am a therapist, so it formed into my future with being able to be open to vulnerability. All right, so vulnerability does not require for one to overshare. Okay, because that can also create some sort of disconnect. Too much information, right? And discomfort. But you have to be careful in what you disclose, right? So just think about it. If you're in a place where you are willing to be vulnerable, it should be with a specific purpose, where you are trying to foster connection with someone, whether you're trying to develop a trust or for your own personal gain, which is healing. So vulnerability is not the mindset of, I don't want people to know my business, nor is it a time where you would use it for gain or to criticize someone else. So another example I would like to share is a time where a person who, it was a student, client, no longer in my care. When I was working in a school, she was very not vulnerable, very guarded, not open to sharing what her needs are, give attitudes to everyone. She was not willing to let go of her depressive state, but instead, she chose to feed it. So anything negative you can think of is what she attracted to. So for this student, it was brought to my attention on what was going on. One of the teachers had a concern and felt like, okay, well, would you be able to check in with this student? And I'm telling you guys this to understand that vulnerability does require for you to be able to create a safe space for that individual, so that they can feel that there is some sense of trust in being able to talk to them. So I had to sit there, despite what I know about this student or what I've heard in the past. I had to acknowledge that this person needs me. I had to extend grace. Show empathy, which is not the same thing as sympathy. Empathy is being able to sit with that person, be with that person. Sympathy is, if I'm being honest, putting a band-aid over it. Let's fix it. I'm so sorry you're going through this. So with me doing those things of extending grace, being empathetic towards her, this led her to being comfortable enough to open up to me. And that was a risk that she was willing to take. So not only was she able, so this is like the aftermath of her being able to express herself to me, she was not only able to attend and to her outward scars, but she began the process of healing her inner scars. And with that student, it was a lot of prayer. I asked my mom to pray for her, and she was able to get the help that she needed.
Amen.
Now, some may think that, this vulnerability that I'm sharing from our personal experiences comes with, whether it's the profession that I'm in. I want you guys to understand that it's more than just the title. It's more than just the degree, the college experience. It doesn't even have anything to do with my age, because I feel like everyone not only has a testimony or experience, but everyone has the capacity to be vulnerable. So no matter the state of uncertainty or discomfort that you're placed in, being the other person on the end to support someone who's in a vulnerable state, being that vulnerable person is grasping that vulnerability can bring transformation, and that healing can take place. All right, so I have another video that I want to share.
I can remember my mom telling me that eventually, if you had a wound, you had to take off the Band-Aid because you had to expose it to the air and to the light. There's no way for it to fully heal unless it's exposed. And that's true for areas of vulnerability also. There's no way for us to fully heal as people unless we start to become more exposed, more open, more vulnerable, letting the light of heaven come into the situation, letting the air, the breath of God, speak into their life. You have to be vulnerable. There is wholeness to be experienced.
Amen. So vulnerability is not a weakness, nor is it an act of failing. It's essential for courage, trust, and change. It's the pathway to deeper faith, deeper connection, and deeper healing. So, vulnerability, emotional vulnerability, the same vulnerability seen in David. David poured out his emotions in Psalms. We know about the fear, the sorrow, the guilt, the longing for God. Hannah, in her weeping before God, openly expressing her grief over her infertility. We have Paul. In 2 Corinthians, it talked about admitting his weaknesses and struggles, saying, when I am weak, then I am strong. Job, expressing deep anguish, questioning God during his time of suffering. And even vulnerability is seen in the life of Jesus through his ministry, his relationship with his disciples, in his emotional suffering of having to be separated from his Father. Their vulnerability was not a weakness. It was a doorway to strength, faith, and transformation. Their brokenness became a birthplace for blessings. So think of a time where you were emotionally broken, that pain, the hurt, the guilt. Think of how God brought you through. Or think today, is there something that you are currently holding on to? Ask yourself, am I willing to be vulnerable? Am I willing to let it go so that God can help and intervene? Vulnerability is seen in your tears that fall during prayer, when words fail but the heart speaks. Vulnerability is seen in your courage to say, I'm not okay, even when you feel expected to be strong. When you ask for help, knowing that you might be misunderstood, but needing support anyway. It's seen in you sharing your story, even the parts that are messy, painful, unfinished. Vulnerability is seen in when you forgive someone when your heart is still healing. Vulnerability is seen in when you're admitting your doubt while still choosing to believe. It is also seen in letting someone you love or letting someone love you, even when you feel that you are unworthy to be loved. Vulnerability is seen in when you trust God, even when the outcome is uncertain and the path is unclear. Vulnerability is seen in your showing up, even when you feel broken inside. It's also seen in letting go of control, your pride, and your need to have it all together. So let's lean into the discomfort, because when we embrace vulnerability, we open ourselves to transformation, not just for ourselves, but for our families, our communities, and our walk with Christ.